I settled into my seat on the plane, bound for home, gazing out the window as we ascended into the sky. After 3 decades, I was finally returning for good, a decision motivated by my love for my wife, Lisa. I retrieved my trusty Zippo, a gift from her bearing the inscription, "To my beloved husband, Alan. Congratulations, Marine." Yep, that's me, Alan Roberts, a.k.a. Machine Gunnery Sergeant Alan Roberts, or just Machine Weapon Rob to those close to me. Today, another title joins the ranks. Retired. For over 30 years, I wore a military uniform adorned with ribbons and badges that held significance only for me. More than 10 of those years were spent in the reserves. I had experienced it all, collected all the shirts. When Lisa and I tied the knot years ago, I was already in good shape, having met her on the roadside one day after work. I was a mechanic at a big car dealership in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, when I spotted her car with its hood up, steam billowing from the engine. Offering to help, I quickly diagnosed the problem: a torn fan belt. A trip to the auto parts store and some quick repairs had her back on the road in no time. "Thank you so much," she said gratefully. "I thought I'd never make it back to Spokane." "Just get home safely," I replied. "Please let me repay you," she insisted. "How about dinner? Do you like Red Lobster?" What the heck? I thought. I love Red Lobster, I agreed. She smiled, jotting her name and number down. Great, she said. How about Friday at 7 p.m.? Sounds perfect, I confirmed. That Friday marked the beginning of our journey together. 8 months later, I proposed, and in 1987, we tied the knot. Since then, I've been a content man. She moved to my home in northern Idaho, adding over 30 miles to her commute to work as a teacher in Spokane Valley. We considered relocating closer to her job, but I cherished our house, nestled on 5 wooded acres off Interstate 95, a legacy from my parents. My hope is to pass it down to our children someday. Despite my monthly reserve commitments and annual training, Lisa never complained. Her support was unwavering, evident even in the modest checks she'd deposit into my IRA. Our daughter Renee arrived about 1.5 years into our marriage. Then, in 1990, Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait thrust me into active duty for over a year. Upon my return, our son Carl joined our family. The events of September 11th altered our lives. I transitioned to active duty, shuttling between Camp Pendleton, California, and Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Lisa, certified to teach in both states, secured employment wherever we relocated. My service included 3 tours in Iraq, 3 in Afghanistan, and 4 stints in Okinawa, totaling over 6 years. Despite the strain on Lisa and the kids, she never complained. But I knew the toll it took. This deployment, I vowed, would be her last. At 56, I felt desert warfare was for the young. My time to return home had come after 3 decades of service. You might expect I'd retired at a higher rank, and you'd be right. I was a typical Marine in some ways, enjoying drinks with comrades and defending them fiercely. Despite losing promotions for it, I embraced being a dependable leader. Gunnery Sergeant Gunny earned respect for taking care of his Marines. At my retirement bash, Lieutenant Colonel Reston, who once disciplined me, came by. We harbored no ill will. In fact, we'd become friends. He awarded me a commendation, sealing our camaraderie. "The Corps won't be the same without you, Gunny," he said warmly. Returning his smile, I replied, "Thanks, Colonel, but I trust it's in capable hands." Lance Corporal Dawson, accompanied by his buddies, approached, handing me a parcel wrapped in brown paper. "Just a little something to remember us by, Gunny Rob," he said, grinning. Unwrapping it, I chuckled at the sight of a hand-carved wooden hand with an extended middle finger. It brought back memories of my playful gestures. Turning it over, I noticed he'd etched the Marine Corps emblem and our unit designation on the back, a fitting memento. "Did you carve this yourself, Dawson?" I inquired. With a proud grin, he nodded. "Sure did, Gunny," he affirmed. "Hell of a job," I praised. "I'll cherish it forever. Thanks." As we shook hands, the other Marines cheered and clapped. Glancing at Staff Sergeant Joel Henson, my successor as company machine gunner, I offered some advice. "You look after these Marines well, Joel," I urged, shaking his hand. "I will, Gunny, I promise," he assured, smiling. "Good, 'cause if you don't, I'll come back and kick your back," I joked, sparking more laughter. "Henson's a good man," Gunny Rob commented, "but no one can replace you. Take care of yourself, Gunny. It's been an honor serving with you." After exchanging farewells, I headed for the exit, where the driver informed me my gear was ready. As the plane descended, I returned to reality, spotting the familiar sights of Spokane below, the river, the waterfall, Riverfront Park, and the Expo 74 Pavilion. Memories of sunny days there with Lisa and the kids flooded my mind. Disembarking, I scanned the crowd for Lisa, having notified her of my arrival. She wasn't there yet, so I grabbed my bags, hoping to see her soon. That's odd, I mused, texting her again at the airport. Where are you? No reply. Trying her cell, it went straight to voicemail. Concerned, I dialed home, but got the answering machine. God, I whispered, please let her be safe. Her parents hadn't heard from her either. Need a ride? Her mother offered. Not yet, I declined. Maybe she's stuck in traffic. I'll wait and call you if I can't find another lift. No point in you driving all this way. I will, Alan, she promised, hanging up. A stranger interrupted my thoughts. Need a lift, Gunny? He offered, loading luggage into a white SUV. I thought my wife was here, I admitted. Where to? He inquired. Idaho, near Athol and Bayview, I answered. I'm headed that way, he offered. Sure beats a cab, I agreed. Thanks, let me cover gas at least. He refused. Company card covers it, he explained. I tossed my bags in and settled in. Vacation? He guessed. Retirement, I corrected. 30 years in, 30 to go. Long day, he observed, introducing himself as John Sykes. You can say that again, I agreed, texting Lisa. Got a ride? TC is home? So, any plans? He asked, pulling into the driveway. Not much, I shrugged. Fishing, hunting, enjoying time with the wife. I hear you, he chuckled. I retired from the Army after 25 years, as a lieutenant colonel. Retirement's not all it's cracked up to be. What do you do now? I inquired. I run a camp for men up north, he revealed. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Never heard of it. What's it for? It helps men facing tough personal situations, he explained. Like what? I probed. Infidelity, for one, he said knowingly. Unfortunately familiar with that, I sighed. We help them physically, mentally, emotionally, and legally, he outlined. Sounds intense, I remarked. How long do they stay? 3 months, like boot camp, he replied. Sounds rigorous, I commented. Ever been a drill instructor? He asked. At Parris Island, South Carolina, I confirmed. Promoted from sergeant to staff sergeant there. So you're familiar with our methods, he noted. I found his words impressive and felt a strong curiosity about the camp. I'd been given approval to bring in a senior instructor to oversee the staff, welcome new students, and manage the curriculum. Interested? It definitely piques my interest, I admitted. Feels like we crossed paths for a reason. You're perceptive, Alan, he complimented. The company has had an eye on you for a while. Me? I questioned. Why? You're a local, a combat vet with an impressive record, he explained. Despite some bar incidents, you're exactly what we need. So your company has been watching me? I asked, wary. Yes, he confirmed. We were waiting for your retirement. This job suits you perfectly. Better pay, benefits, and you report directly to me. Intriguing, I mused. But there's a catch, isn't there? You're right, he nodded, handing me a folder. Take a look. Inside, I found a report detailing my wife's affair with her school principal, Elroy McEnroe, spanning over 2 decades. Shocked, I watched the enclosed DVD. Where'd you find this? I questioned. I won't sugarcoat it, Alan, he replied. The company vetted you after my interest in hiring you. Part of that involved your family life. I assume you weren't aware. No clue, I admitted, taken aback. How do you know it's been going on for 2 decades? Our investigators are thorough, he explained. They've got the latest gear. They pieced it together from conversations between your wife and McEnroe. She's been hiding it well. It made sense now, her frequent visits while I was away. Half of the past 20 years spent with Elroy. Damn, a dreadful thought hit me. Well, what about the kids? I asked. They're yours, he assured. How can you be sure? I inquired. Our investigators confirmed it, he assured. They matched your children's DNA to yours. I bet you had a feeling she wasn't meeting me at the airport. Right, I confirmed. Investigators say they meet regularly after school, but once a week they go to your place for a case, then he drives home. That's been their routine while you're away, and tonight they usually head to your house. Dang, I muttered. That's a 70-mile round trip just for a fling. How could she? John shrugged. It happens, he said. Long trips, time away from family, war changes people in ways we don't realize. It strains even the best marriages. The question is, what now? If all this checks out, divorce is my only option, I concluded. John nodded. Agreed, he said. What about him? I'd like to tear him apart, I admitted, but I won't risk jail. I'll find another way. All the details are in the report, John assured. He's married, 2 kids, who are unaware of his affair with Lisa. You swear this is accurate? I pressed. Absolutely, John affirmed. If I doubted it, I wouldn't have shown you. I'm sorry, Gunny, you don't deserve this. Who does then? I pondered. Well put, John agreed. We arrived at my house, nestled in a secluded area. You're really off the beaten path, he remarked, admiring the property. Thanks, I replied. My parents built it. Was hoping Lisa and I could retire here. Looks like it's just me for now. John handed me a business card. Call me when you're ready, he urged. Come to camp. We'll talk, introduce you around, give you a tour. We've got counselors too if you need. Serious about the job, but this comes first, he said, indicating the envelope. I nodded in understanding. Thanks, John, I said. For the trip, for the offer, for everything. I'll handle it, I promise you. I'll be in touch. We shook hands and I got out of the SUV, grabbing my sea bag and clothes bag. He turned around and drove off, and I headed for the front door. I carried my things into the bedroom and put everything in its place, still in shock at what John had said. I noticed that everything was neat as a pin, just the way Lisa always liked it. She may be a cheating strumpet, I thought, but at least her house is clean. After putting everything away, I changed into my uniform, jeans and a t-shirt. I grabbed my folder and went downstairs. I needed to see what else was in that report. I pulled out the DVD and put it in the player. I turned on the TV and started the DVD. I saw Lisa and Elroy in a motel-like room. So when are you going to dump him? He asked. I don't know, probably not until he retires, she replied. If you play your cards right. You could get half of his retirement checks and most of his savings and 401k, Elroy said. That was her plan, I muttered. Good thing I have the prenup she signed. When we first got married, Dad had the form ready for me when he died. All I had to do was put her name on it. I had heard enough and pulled out the phone book. It wasn't too late, so I called and made an appointment with a family law attorney for the next morning. Going upstairs, I gathered some of her things and set the bags by the door. Screw her, I thought. If she wants to leave, I'll let her go. Afterward, I spent some time on the couch reflecting on my life with Lisa. As far as I knew, things were fine between us. Sure, we had the same problems that every married couple has, but we always worked them out. I always thought that if she was going to cheat on me, it would be with someone much bigger than myself. But I couldn't imagine that she would settle for a marshmallow man. I even laughed out loud when I thought about it. However, in all the years we'd been together, I'd never once guessed that our lovemaking was causing her physical pain. She had never told me about it. What surprised and impressed me was that she was always trim, even after our children were born. I made my way to my office and opened the cabinet where I kept my indoor tools. There, on a shelf, was an unopened package of duct tape. There were 2 rolls in the package, and while I was looking at them, an idea popped into my head. I took the duct tape and the package of zip ties and closed the cabinet. I walked over to the weapon cabinet, opened it, and pulled out a .45 caliber pistol. After making sure it was empty, I went back to the dining room. I spread everything out on the table, made a sandwich, grabbed a beer, and sat at the table waiting for them to arrive. It was starting to get dark when I heard a car pull into the garage. A couple of minutes later, I heard the 2 of them giggling and talking as Lisa opened the door. Neither of them saw me sitting at the table until they entered the main part of the house. Lisa's eyes widened when she saw me at the table. Alan, she exclaimed. When did you get here? Didn't you get my emails and messages? She asked. Sorry, my phone battery died, she said. Things aren't what they seem, Alan. Trust me. Really? I asked. You mean it's not you and Elroy getting ready to have fun in our bed? Elroy motioned toward me and I raised my weapon. He froze, his eyes widening and his face paling. There were no bullets in the weapon. Hell, the magazine didn't even fit in the pistol grip. But they didn't know that. Oh God, he screamed. Please don't do this. I noticed a wet spot in the lap of his pants and smiled. The idiot had wet himself. Shut up, creep, I said. You think you can entertain another man's wife for over 20 years and get away with it? I don't think so. Stand against the tree, I told him. Put your back against it, hands behind your back. I looked at Lisa. Tie him to the tree, I ordered. All I want to see are his eyes and nose. Move. She took the first roll and began gently applying it to his skin. Hurry the hell up. Run. She started running around the tree, dispensing tape as she went. When the first roll was used up, I tossed her the second and ordered her to keep going. By the time she was done, Elroy was attached to the tree in a cocoon of duct tape. Only his eyes and nose were visible. He was looking back and forth fearfully. I walked over to him and made sure he couldn't move. Then I looked into his eyes, smiled, and pulled out my cell phone. I dialed his home number, which I had thanks to the report John had given me. "McEnroe residence. Judy speaking," said a female voice on the other end. "Mrs. McEnroe. My name is Alan Roberts," I said. "Is your husband Elroy here?" "No, he has a meeting with the teachers at his school," she replied. "May I take a message and ask him to call you back?" "That won't be necessary, Mrs. McEnroe, but thank you anyway," I said. "I apologize for the deception, but the truth is that your husband is at my house with my wife, and I think you should come and get him." I saw Elroy's eyes grow even wider under the tape. "What is he doing in your house with your wife?" Judy asked. "They were going to have lovemaking, but changed their minds," I replied. "What?" Judy yelled. "Are you sure about that? Is this some kind of sick joke?" "No, ma'am," I said. "It's not a joke. They've been having an affair for over 20 years. "That idiot," she shouted. "I'm going to kick his rear. God damn it, I'll come and get him. Where are you located?" "Idaho, east of Athol on Highway 95, I said. "I'll send you directions." "Thank you, Mr. Roberts," she said. "I'll be there as soon as I can." After we finished talking, I texted her directions to my house, then looked at Elroy, who was even more scared than before. "I'm going to have a little talk with my wife right now, if you don't mind," I told him. "Don't go anywhere, do you hear me?" He tried to shake his head, but the tape wouldn't let him. I gestured for Lisa to go inside. She stepped aside, and I followed her. When we got into the house, I motioned for her to sit on the couch and held the remote for the TV and DVD player. "How long has this been going on?" I asked. "And before you say anything, remember that I know a lot more than you think." "It's been going on for a while," she said quietly. "For a while?" I asked. "What, a month? A year? 10 years? 20 years?" "Longer," she said, lowering her face. "Longer," I repeated. "I see. When did it start?" "Around 1995, she said. "We worked together for years and never did anything while you were home. We only got together when you were gone." "Including all those times I was sent overseas?" I asked. She nodded. "Yes," she said. "I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. You weren't supposed to find out about it." "So, while I was fighting terrorists and getting shot in the rear, you were here having fun with this piece of crap in our bed?" I asked. She started crying. "Stop crying," I told her. "Answer the damn question." She wiped her eyes and nodded. "Yes," she said. "Please, we can get past this. Can't you give me another chance?" "Get through this?" I asked. "Are you kidding me? You think I should just turn a blind eye to your cheating? Give me one good reason why I shouldn't just kick you to the curb right now." "It shouldn't concern us," she said, "and I don't want a divorce." I knew she was lying since I'd heard what she'd said to Elroy. "It's too late for that," I said. "I'm seeing a lawyer tomorrow." She looked at me defiantly. "You don't want to do that," she said. "Elroy told me that if you try to divorce me, I can get half your pension, the house, and everything else." I laughed and held out the prenup. "There's just one problem," I said. "Remember the prenup you signed years ago? It's still valid and ironclad. You don't get a thing if I can help it. The house is mine, remember? My parents willed it to me. And the prenup clearly states what happens in the event of infidelity. Don't worry, I'll follow it to the letter. You'll get 40% of our joint savings, but no support, and I keep all of my retirement contributions." "I'll fight you," she said. "I figured you'd say that," I said, pointing the remote at the TV. I pressed play, and a video of her with Elroy popped up on the screen. Her face went white, and she covered her mouth with her hand. "Oh my God," she gasped. "How did you get this? Please turn it off." I shook my head. "It doesn't matter how I got it," I said. "What matters is what your school board will do when they get a copy of this." She looked at me, shocked. "I'm going to lose my job," she said. "And so will Elroy. Please, no, don't do this." "So you'll sign the papers when you get them?" I asked. Defeated, she nodded. I turned up the volume on the video and fast-forwarded to the part where she complained that I was too big for her. "Can you explain that to me?" I asked. "All these years we've been together and you never complained once? Why didn't you say anything?" "I didn't want to hurt your feelings," she said. "At first, I liked it, and you always turned me on. But after a while, it started to hurt." "And that's why you started making excuses not to have lovemaking with me?" I asked. She nodded. "Yes," she said. "I'm really sorry." "Yeah, that's what you said," I told her. I grabbed her purse and pulled out her keys. I took out her house keys and then her wallet. I took out her ATM and general credit card but left her STCU card. I knew she had an account at the Spokane Teachers Credit Union and regularly contributed 10% of her paycheck to that account. If she needed money, she could use that account. I tossed her purse back on the couch. "I guess I should probably pack up and leave," she said quietly. "Not now," I told her. "You still have some explaining to do. You need to tell your parents and our children about what you did so they know why we're divorcing." "Please don't make me do this," she begged, crying. "Why?" I asked. "You've had no problem cheating on me for 2 decades. Surely you're not ashamed of what you did." "They'll hate me, I know it," she cried. "That's too bad," I said, picking up the phone. I was about to call her parents when I saw the glow of headlights pulling into the driveway. I figured it was Judy coming to get her husband. "Ah, I see Judy is here. You can start by explaining to her why you entertained her husband." A moment later, there was a knock on the door. Opening it, I saw a well-fed woman who looked a little younger than me. She looked quite attractive and was wearing her ripped jeans perfectly tight. I couldn't help but notice that she was looking at me even more than I was looking at her. "Yes?" I asked. "Are you Alan Roberts?" she asked, glancing at my lap. "Yes, and you must be Judy McEnroe," I said. "For the moment, yes," she said. "Please come in," I said as I opened the door. "So, where is that nasty piece of crap hiding?" she asked. I smiled when she said that. I liked this woman immediately. "He's a little tied up right now," I said. "He's not going anywhere, I assure you." Judy looked at Lisa, her face reddening with rage. "So it's you, cow, having fun with my soon-to-be ex-husband," she said. Her eyes went wide as she recognized my wife. "Oh my God, it's you, Lisa Conroy, I should have known." "Please stop," Lisa shouted. "Shut up, you goddamn strumpet," Judy wailed. "I have to kick your back by the middle of next week. How can you do that? You're married to this gorgeous piece of man meat and you're cheating on him with a Pillsbury Doughboy." Judy stopped to look at me. "Where is that nasty idiot?" she asked. "I'll take you to him," I said. "Wait." I went to my office and opened the cabinet that held the duct tape. I quickly found what I was looking for: a box cutter, a bottle of 90% isopropyl booze, and a fairly clean rag that used to be a t-shirt. I went back to the front room and invited Judy to follow me. We went outside, and I pointed to the tree where I had secured Elroy. Judy burst into laughter when she saw that he was wrapped in duct tape. Elroy wasn't too happy to see his wife, and I could see the terror in his eyes. "I like your style, Alan," she said. "It's going to take forever to get him out of this." I shook my head and placed the spork and rag on the ground. "No, it won't take long," I said. She held up her hand. "Wait a second," she said, walking over to him and staring him in the eye. "You're a damn creep," she said, removing her rings and throwing them on the ground. "You haven't touched me in months, and now I know why." I realized this was the woman I didn't want to anger. I pulled out a box cutter and cut the tape. Then I stepped back and looked at Lisa. Once freed, Elroy fell to the ground, squirming in agony. "Okay, get up," I told him. "Get your back in the house." "He's been more fun to be with than I've had in years," Judy said, watching Elroy run inside. "Please, haven't you done enough?" she pleaded. "No," I said. "Call your mom and put her on speakerphone." Lisa dialed her parents. "Hi," Mom said when she answered. "Mom," Lisa cried. "It's me, Lisa." "Lisa," her mother said. "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" "Mom, Alan is kicking me out of the house," Lisa said, crying. "Why is he doing that?" her mother asked. "He found out I cheated on him," Lisa said through sobs. "You did what?" her mother asked, clearly angry. "You stupid cow! How could you do that to your husband? I thought I raised you better than that. What the hell is wrong with you? I don't blame him for kicking you out." "Mom, please can I stay with you for a while?" asked Lisa. "I think so, but not for too long," said her mother. "And no men. Do you understand me?" "Thank you, Mom," she said. "Is Alan there?" her mother asked. "I'm here, Mom," I said. I liked Lisa's parents, and I'd called them Mom and Dad since we'd gotten married. "Are you okay, son?" she asked. "I'll be fine, Mom," I said. "It won't be easy, but I'll get through it." "I'm so sorry, Alan," Lisa's mother said. "You were always so good to her. I don't know what got into her brain. Please stay in touch." "I will, Mom. Thank you," I said before she ended the conversation. I looked at Lisa before continuing. "You have 2 more calls to make, so get on it." "Please don't make me do it," she sobbed. "Why not?" I asked. "They deserve to hear the truth. Get to it." Trembling, Lisa picked up the phone and called our son Carl. "Hi," he said, picking up the phone. "Hi, Carl," Lisa said. "It's Mom." "Are you okay, Mom?" he asked. "No," she replied. "Your father and I are getting a divorce." "What?" he asked. "It can't be. What happened? Did Daddy cheat on you or something?" "No, son. I cheated on your daddy, and he found out," Lisa said. "Mom, how could you?" he asked. "Is Daddy there?" "I'm here, son," I said. "Before you ask, I'm fine. I just felt you needed to hear the truth. Your mother has been doing this for over 20 years. I only found out about it today." "Oh my God, Dad," he said. "I'm so sorry to hear that." "I'm sorry, Carl," she said. "Yeah, sorry you got caught," he said. "Look, Mom, I can't believe you did that to Dad. I gotta go. I'll talk to you later. Bye." He ended the conversation, and Lisa sobbed as she sat on the couch. "One more call," I said. Lisa looked up, her eyes red and puffy. "Please, I'm begging you," she said. "No more." "One call," I said. "Make it." Trembling, Lisa dialed our daughter's number. The call went pretty much the same as the others, only Renee was far more upset than Carl. "You stupid cow," she said when Lisa told her what was going on. "I hope Daddy kicks your slimy back to the curb." "He is," Lisa said. "How can you be so stupid?" asked Renee. "You're not my mother right now. I don't know who you are. You better get your crap straightened out or you'll never see your grandchildren. Don't call me ever again. Goodbye." Lisa sobbed uncontrollably as Renee wrapped up the conversation. "Are you beginning to realize the consequences of your actions?" I asked. "You completely destroyed 2 families with your selfishness. I hope you're happy." Lisa wiped her eyes as I spoke to her. "I told you I was sorry," she said. "Everyone hates me now." "Well, what you sow is what you reap," I said. "I think it's time for you to leave. I've already packed your toiletries and some of your things. You can make arrangements to come back later for the rest of your stuff." Nodding her head, Lisa went upstairs, picked up the suitcase and overnight bag I had placed by the bedroom door, and went back downstairs. Judy stopped her before she went out the door. "Wait a sec," Judy said. "So if I got this right, your hubby's been cozying up to mine for over 20 years? Lisa glanced down, bashful. "Yeah," she murmured. "Well then, I guess you won't mind if I poach your man?" Judy smirked. "Been ages since I've been with a real man, and yours seems pretty comfy." Judy glanced at me. "So, what do you think? Up for a little payback?" Lisa dropped her suitcase, tears streaming down her face. "You wouldn't, would you?" she pleaded. "Please, don't do this to me." "I don't know," I shrugged. "It's the best offer I've had lately. Plus, why should cheaters have all the fun?" Judy chuckled. "I guess you've got a point," Lisa conceded. "No, you don't, cow," Judy retorted. "Oh, and remember to take out the trash," she added, grabbing Elroy's collar. She stared at him for a moment. "Don't step foot in the house. I don't care where you sleep. Car or motel, it's up to you. I never want to see you again, idiot. Lawyer's appointment tomorrow. Clear?" He nodded obediently. "Crystal," he muttered, making for the door. Lisa glanced at me one last time. "Sorry, Alan," she said. "For everything. Goodbye." With that, she turned and left, out of the house and out of my life. We watched as Lisa drove off, my eyes moistening. "You okay?" Judy asked. "Yeah, just something in my eye," I said, wiping it. "Crap," she murmured, smiling. I chuckled. "So, how do you walk away from 30 years?" I wondered. "Open up to new possibilities," Judy advised. I nodded. "You really didn't know any of this?" she asked. I shook my head. "Nope, just found out today. She was at it while I was on a trip." "What about you? Did you know about him?" she inquired. "Had my suspicions," I admitted. Her perfume on him on his clothes. Never caught him, though. Figured it might come to this. "What's your next move?" I asked. "I'm not sure," she sighed. "I've always been a stay-at-home wife and mom. It's all I ever wanted. My mom raised me old school, taught me the best job for a woman was homemaker. I married straight out of high school, never had a paying job, just wanted to keep my husband happy and raise my kids right, but I'll figure it out." I nodded, confident she'd bounce back. "Did you mean what you said earlier about love and all?" I inquired. She chuckled. "Would you like to stay over?" I offered. "Are you sure?" she questioned. "I'd enjoy the company," I assured her. "I suppose I wouldn't mind," she agreed. That night, we made love. Before sleep, I asked, "Why'd you stick with him then?" "Believe it or not, I loved him once," she admitted. "He was good to me and the kids." "And you loved your wife too, right?" "Yeah, I did," I acknowledged. "Part of me probably always will. But I won't tolerate her cheating." "I feel the same," she agreed. "To me, the marriage is done." So, what's next? I wondered. You mean for us? She clarified. I nodded. Well, she began, I like you, Alan Roberts. I'd like to see where this goes. I'd like that too, I agreed. She smiled. All right, she said the next morning. Good morning, lover, she greeted with a smile. Want some breakfast? I'd love it, I replied. Great, she said. I've got coffee brewing. What's on your agenda today? I've got a lawyer meeting and some work stuff, I listed. And you? I'm heading home after breakfast, then I'll schedule my own lawyer appointment, she said. I'll catch you downstairs, she added. As she left, I tended to my morning routine and showered. Opting for my Class C uniform, I dressed, ensured everything was in place, and made my way downstairs. Judy's eyes widened at the sight of me. Are you in the Army? She asked. Marines, I corrected. For about another month. I'm on terminal leave before retirement. She eyed the ribbons and badges on my chest. What are those for? She inquired. Different things, I replied. This one? Being in the wrong place at the wrong time, I explained, pointing to a purple heart ribbon with 3 stars. Oh my God, she gasped. You were wounded in combat. 4 times, I confirmed. Where have you been? She asked. Desert Storm in the 90s, I recounted. Then 6 tours split between Iraq and Afghanistan. How long have you been in the military? She questioned. Over 30 years, mostly active duty, I answered. So your wife cheated on you while you were at war? She clarified. And he knew? Yes, I affirmed. What an idiot, she muttered. He'll pay for that. After breakfast, we stepped outside. She requested I call her after she got home, and I agreed. The lawyer meeting went smoothly. After reviewing my evidence, including the prenup and financial data, he concluded, given her income, alimony seems unlikely. The house and pension are protected, but the bank account will need to be split according to the prenup. When do you want to file? I need this done ASAP, I emphasized. Great, he replied. Getting it to Washington might need a bit of extra effort, but we manage that routinely. I'll handle the paperwork, prep, and filing. If all goes smoothly, we could finalize it early next week. You'll just need to cover the filing fee and my service charge. You can settle that with the receptionist on your way out. Handing me a sheet of paper, he continued. Here's a checklist to safeguard your interests. Hopefully, your wife hasn't acted at the bank yet. Glancing over the list, I noted the bank visit was urgent. The rest could be managed online. Any queries? He inquired. I shook my head. None for now, I confirmed. He passed me his card and shook my hand. Feel free to reach out if needed. Best of luck. Exiting, I paid the fees and prepayment, then hit the road. Once in the car, I phoned John, just wrapping up with the lawyer. I need to sort some bank matters, but let's talk about that job you mentioned, I stated. I'll be around, Gunny, he assured. Looking forward to it. After our conversation ended, he texted me directions to the campground. At the bank, I discovered Lisa hadn't accessed the account yet. I withdrew 60% and opened a new account solely in my name. Joint credit cards were canceled, balances paid off, and I ordered new ATM and credit cards for myself. Then, I drove to the campground, roughly 35 miles northeast of home. Despite the longer drive, it provided time for reflection. In just one day, I transitioned from a contentedly married man envisioning retirement with my wife to discovering over 20 years of betrayal. 6 of those years were spent in a war zone, risking my life. I realized I coped with Lisa's betrayal akin to facing armed adversaries in combat. Thankfully, there was Judy. Alone, I don't know how I'd manage. Her vitality, honesty, and prowess in bed were comforting. Yet, I feared rushing into something with her immediately after ending things with Lisa. Eventually, I arrived at Camp Rollins. With little traffic on the narrow road, I sped up until reaching a gate manned by a camouflage-clad guard, armed and ready. I'm here to see John Sykes, I stated. Name's Roberts, Alan Roberts. Handing him John's card and my driver's license as instructed, I waited. One moment, sir, the guard responded. He scrutinized my truck, then returned to the shack. I observed him conversing on a field phone. After a brief interval, he handed back my documents. Commandant Sykes is expecting you. Welcome to Camp Rollins, Gunny Roberts, he declared. Before I could express gratitude, he hastened to open the gate, waving as I drove through. Negotiating several tight turns, I entered a military camp's premises. Tidy wooden structures bordered a central area where soldiers drilled. The surroundings were immaculate, lawns impeccably groomed. Finding the camp headquarters, I parked. Inside, an attractive blonde greeted me, professionally dressed. She smiled upon my arrival. "You must be Sergeant Roberts," she presumed. "Yes," I affirmed. "Welcome to Camp Rollins," she extended. "Commandant Sykes is awaiting you. Care for some coffee?" "Black, please. That'd be great," I accepted. "Of course," she complied. "Please come in." I knocked, and he, on the phone, welcomed me in. Noting his khaki uniform shirt adorned with silver oak leaves, I recognized his rank in the Army. After he hung up, he rose to greet me. "Glad you made it, Gunny," he greeted. "Please take a seat." As I settled, the receptionist brought my coffee. Thanking her, I savored the sip. Just what I needed. "No issues getting here?" he inquired. "None. Your directions were spot on," I assured. "Good," he nodded. "Before we delve too deep, let me shed light on our visitors. Every man who enters is a sufferer. All have been cheated on, many facing various forms of mistreat, physical, emotional, or both, alongside betraying and humiliation. I can relate," he continued. "Many are what some might term wimps. I know it's not politically correct, but I value honesty. These men often lack strength, physically and emotionally. Some feel helpless, having nowhere else to seek support. Regrettably, the women they're involved with exploit this vulnerability." "Wow," I exclaimed, taken aback by his revelations. "So, what's the approach?" I inquired. "The initial step is to instill focus and enhance their physical strength," John explained. "We restrict their access to the internet and prohibit the use of any electronics, cell phones, laptops, tablets, you name it. During their 3-month stay, there's zero online access. No emails, Facebook, YouTube, nothing. I'm sure they'll love that," I remarked sarcastically. "Sometimes," he acknowledged. "Prior to arriving here, some were glued to their phones, oblivious to the world. We stripped that distraction away, compelling them to confront their issues." "How do they stay connected with their families?" I queried. "Valid concern," John nodded. "We assign them a mailbox address for correspondence, done solely via regular mail. Post offices in Bonners Ferry and Clark Fork handle deliveries twice weekly. Quite a trek to reach them. We aim to prevent any disruptions from spouses," he continued. "We've got armed guards, helicopters, and an electronic security perimeter encircling the camp. Anyone attempting unauthorized entry will know." "Any incidents of breach?" I probed. "There have been attempts," John disclosed. "Fortunately, we thwarted them. There's an uncensored briefing on that in the packet I'll provide." Thwarted, I mused to myself. A telling term. I wondered what it entailed. "Tell me more about the training regimen," I pressed. "Here's a quick rundown. You'll find detailed info in the packet I'll send you home with. The initial month's the toughest for the students," John elaborated. "Besides disconnecting from modern tech and the web, they endure rigorous physical training, akin to recruit boot camp's first phase. Their day kicks off at 0500 with drills. They move quickly everywhere, with strict instructors, if you catch my drift. Come the second month, students meet their counselors. They undergo intense counseling to address their issues alongside ongoing physical training and self-defense lessons. Third month, we reinforce it all and connect them with lawyers to tackle legal matters." He glanced at his watch before adding, "Actually, there's a group session ongoing now. You might want to join." "Sure," I agreed. Exiting his office, we headed to another building. Opening the door, he gestured for me to enter first. Stepping inside, I spotted a group of men arranged in a semicircle before a female counselor. The instructor by the door stiffened at John's arrival, then nodded at me before resuming his seat. Silently, we took our places at the back and observed. One of the students recounted how his wife degraded him, compelling him to service her lovers by mouth and backside while mocking his manhood. Tears welled up, and his fellow students offered reassurance, patting him on the shoulder. Glancing at the instructor, a burly man with sergeant chevrons, I noticed his composed demeanor, though his clenched jaw betrayed his anger as the student sobbed. As the counselor attended to him, I resolved to join this organization. If there was any way I could aid these individuals, I was committed to doing so. After more counseling, John signaled for me to join him, and we departed. He led me on a tour of the camp, showcasing its facilities. Then we visited the instructors' quarters, where several men clad in khaki shirts like John congregated. Some sported sergeant chevrons, while others bore staff sergeant insignias. John gathered them in the central area and introduced me. I chatted with them for a bit and discovered half were former Marine Corps drill instructors and the other half were ex-Army NCOs, I recounted. From our conversation, it became clear they're a close-knit bunch genuinely invested in their students' well-being. "Interested in joining the team?" one of them inquired. Glancing at John, I replied, "Actually, yes." John grinned, then announced, "I've asked John to be our new senior instructor. He's on terminal leave for now, but I'd like him to spend some time here getting acquainted with everyone." The others nodded in agreement. "Welcome aboard, Gunny," one said, shaking my hand, echoed by the rest. "Thank you," I responded. Returning to John's office, we discussed work and camp activities. "So you're in?" John prompted. I nodded. "Yes, John," I affirmed. He smiled, shaking my hand. "Welcome aboard." Curious, John queried, "Why'd you decide to join us?" After hearing that man's counseling session, I explained, I realized these things actually happen. I used to think they were just internet stories. "Yeah," John acknowledged, "it's more common than people realize." "By the way, I should make you an official proposal," he added with a laugh. Handing me a document, I was astounded by the company's offer. A salary well beyond what I earned in the military and a stellar benefits package. Naturally, I accepted. "Okay," John said, passing me a stack of folders. "Some light reading to keep you busy for the next few weeks." Chuckling, I replied, "Feel free to visit any time. You'll definitely want to attend the cow burning ceremony." "What?" I questioned. "It's a tradition at the end of each session," he explained. "I think you'll find it interesting." After bidding farewell, I grabbed my folders and headed home. The following 3 weeks passed swiftly. Lisa received and promptly signed the divorce papers without contest. The attorney informed me my divorce would be finalized in 30 days. Judy initiated divorce proceedings against Elroy, which would take longer, approximately 90 days, since she filed in her home state of Washington. "I never heard from Lisa again, nor did I have any interest," I remarked. About 2 weeks post-divorce filing, her parents arrived to collect her chosen items from the house, along with her belongings. I handed over a cashier's check for her share of the bank accounts and all our photos of her. I aimed to rid the house of any reminders of her. Lisa's mother mentioned she was too embarrassed to face me, I mentioned. It didn't surprise me. Meanwhile, Judy spent the last 3 weekends with me, and we had a blast. I took her fishing on Lake Pandoree, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. Unlike Lisa, who wasn't keen on fishing, Judy embraced it eagerly, even cooking the kokanee salmon we caught. "I made a point to visit the camp a couple of times a week and chat with each instructor," I shared. "I discovered they're all combat veterans and divorced, though a few are entering new relationships. Additionally, I attended several group counseling sessions to understand the students' motivations for being there. Their stories truly moved me." "I also learned why the camp is heavily guarded," I added. "From what I gathered, one student had been targeted by an organization named Mace. He fled his wife and sought refuge at the camp. But Mace was relentless in trying to retrieve him. They even attempted an armed assault on the camp, but were thwarted by the vigilant camp guards from an unfamiliar federal agency. Consequently, the company implemented new regulations stipulating that any mention of Mace by a potential student must prompt contact with that agency. According to my research, the agency had been notified twice in the past year. Towards the month's end, John invited me to observe the burning of the cow ceremony, which signified the culmination of the 3-month program. Donning my Class C uniform, I hit the road. The ceremony took place at night, and John and I stood back as spectators. As I observed, the class members affixed pictures of their wives to a straw figure, which was then hoisted and secured to a pole with a rope. At the pole's base lay a stack of firewood. One of the students was called forward and handed a lit torch. "Set the wood ablaze," instructed the teacher, "sir." "Aye, aye, sir," responded the student. Igniting the stack of wood, flames swiftly consumed the straw effigy. The students chanted fervently, "Burn, burn, burn." As the figure incinerated, they erupted in a frenzy, fists raised, howling and chanting. Upon its collapse, they danced, chanted, and some even relieved themselves on the remnants. This spectacle continued until the figure reduced to ashes. "What's the purpose of all this?" I inquired. "John," prompted John. "This ritual offers the men closure," he clarified. "It allows them to release their inner turmoil without resorting to violence against their spouses. Tomorrow, they'll graduate, equipped to confront life's challenges. Just imagine, 3 months ago they arrived as broken individuals. Tomorrow, they depart as reinvigorated men." I comprehended. Briefly, I pictured Lisa, symbolically bound and consumed by flames. The notion brought a subtle smile to my lips. "How are things at home?" queried John. "Progressing well," I responded. "The divorce will conclude soon." "How are you coping?" he inquired. I nodded. "I'm managing," I assured. "Better than expected." "Good to hear," he remarked. "Your break ends in a few days." Yes, I acknowledged. 3 days precisely. Wonderful, he enthused. I anticipate your readiness to meet our new students. They arrive in 4 days. And you'll need this, he added, proffering a small box. Inside gleamed a set of polished metal chevrons. Are you a sergeant major? I inquired. Yes, he confirmed. This signifies your role as a senior instructor. Congratulations. Thank you, I acknowledged. He grinned. No, he countered. Thank you. Over the next 4 days, I spent time with Judy. Elroy offered to buy out her share of the house, which she agreed to. It seemed he intended to move Lisa in, prompting Judy's eagerness to depart. I suggested she move in with me, and she readily accepted. Consequently, I rented a trailer, facilitated her move, and settled her in with me. While it would be snug initially, I was confident we could manage. Judy observed as I prepared for my first full day at camp, providing a lavish breakfast and a farewell kiss as I departed. Keep up with them, she urged, smiling. I will, I affirmed. Uncertain of where my relationship with Judy would lead, I was open to exploring it. Thus far, she had effectively filled the void left by Lisa, and I couldn't recall feeling as content. Arriving at the campground, I checked my appearance in the mirror, adjusted my gear, and stepped onto the porch overlooking the group of men on the trail. Oh my God, I exclaimed, scanning the small cluster of men gathered in the parking lot. How in the world do they anticipate me molding men when they don't even send me proper human beings to start with? Remove this pathetic lot from my sight and begin processing them before I lose my temper. Yes, Sergeant, the man acknowledged, ushering the group toward processing. As they departed, I pivoted and spotted John, his grin stretching from ear to ear. Excellent job, he praised. Welcome to Camp Rollins.